We're still working with linear functions, but we got to add a little something to it. For 8th grade math, everything they do with linear functions is slope-intercept form. For Math 1, we're not just doing slope-intercept form. We got to also do what's called standard form. It's just a different way of writing a linear function. There's a few different ways to do it, or to do linear functions. Some of them help with different things. So for standard or slope-intercept form, we got our y equals mx plus b. What's m? Slope. What's b? Y-intercept. It's got the slope. It's got the y-intercept. That is why it is called slope-intercept form. It is good for things where you need either the slope or the y-intercept. Next is standard. Or write it out. X plus by equals c. That's how standard form looks. We're going to do standard form with a couple other types of functions throughout this year. And they A, B, and C, or A and B, depending on the type of function on each of those. So in standard form, A, B, and C are integers. So what that means is they shouldn't be fractions, they shouldn't be decimals. They're going to be integers if it's true standard form. Could you possibly see a decimal or something on there? Yeah, but then it's not technically standard form, okay? And the greatest common factor is supposed to be 1. So that means we couldn't simplify any of these necessarily. I can 100% guarantee you are going to see problems, though, where it looks like standard form otherwise, where you will need to simplify them, okay? True standard form is already simplified as far as it can go. In terms of what we do in math class, you're going to see things that look like standard form where they might be able to factor out something else. That makes sense? And then A must be positive. Again, that's for true standard form. You will see some where you have negative A's, but that's technically not true standard form. And B, or A and B, both cannot be 0. Well, 0. Intercepts are what's a little easier to find with standard form. The y-intercept, as we talked about already, is the point where a graph crosses the y-axis. Hey, what's the x-intercept then? Where it crosses the x-axis. So they also will call those a 0. We'll use that word a lot more when we get to quadratic functions later in the year. That'll be like after Christmas. So if we look at the graph over here, my y-intercept is right there. That's given me an ordered pair of 0, 6. My x-intercept is where it's crossing the x-axis. So that is at an x value of 8, y value 0. So when we have a y-intercept, we got a y value. When we have an x-intercept, we got an x value, okay? With the x-intercept, the y value is always 0. With the y-intercept, the x value is always 0. So whenever you have an intercept of any type, the other letter is going to be 0. So if it's a y-intercept, you got a y value with a 0 for x. If it's an x-intercept, you got x value with a 0 for y. Make sense? We'll work more with that coming up, finding the intercepts and calculating that. But all you do is you plug in 0 for the other number, and then you just got to kind of solve the equation. Now, though, I'm going to show you how this works to turn it into slope-intercept form. So if I have standard form, I need to be able to find the slope. I need to be able to find the y-intercept, okay? So for slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b, right? Now the b is different than this b. I know they both have b in them, but this is not the y-intercept. Everybody clear on that? So I'm going to solve an equation to make this y equals. There are no numbers in this equation. I can still solve it the exact same way. And actually, y'all's next unit, we have to do that a little bit. Solve equations with just variables, okay? So if I want it to be y equals, I need to move everything away from the y, right? You move things by doing the opposite. So if I subtract ax from each side, it's going to cancel out there. If I do it to one side, I got to do the same thing to the other. So now I got by, whatever, by equals, I'm going to change the order just so it looks a little more like slope-intercept form, okay? So we'll put the ax first, and we got a positive c value. Okay? Everybody okay with that part? Now, since that was by before the board moved it around, right? We're going to divide by b, because we're trying to get y by itself. When I divide by by b, the b's cancel out. Okay? If I do it to one side, I got to do it to both sides. So what I have is I'm going to have y equals all of this stuff on the right. Everybody kind of see how that looks? Mathematically speaking, I can break that into pieces. I can put the b under that and actually write it like this. And I can put the b under the c. And have that. Okay? So what's my slope? Negative a over b, right? Or opposite of a. And what's my y-intercept? C over b. So somewhere on your papers, write those down. Your m. Oh. A. Base b. Your c over b. And in terms of solving that equation, everybody at least kind of followed. That made at least a little bit of sense for right now. So about a month we'll have to actually be able to do that on your own, solving those kinds of equations. Okay, everybody got that? All right, so flip that sheet over. We're going to go to number 3 on there. For right now, I'm not really worried about graphing it. We're going to do the part where it has the y equals, okay? So if I want y equals mx plus b, I got to find my slope first. Slope is the opposite of a over b, right? Opposite of a over b, the a value is what? 4. So we got negative 4 instead because it's the opposite. And my b value is 6. Now this is one of those where it's not like 100% true standard form because the greatest factor isn't 1. We can simplify that. What number goes into both those? 2. So when we divide by 2, it still stays negative, and then we got a negative 2/3. So that's our slope. Everybody good with that? Our y-intercept then, y-intercept, we are doing c over b, right? My c value is what? 12. B value, still 6. 12 over 6 is 2. So now when I write it, I got y equals mx plus b. So y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. Everybody kind of follow? Not horrible, not difficult math to do, just steps to remember, right? All right, so any questions on that? Yeah. The 12, it was just there on the equation. So 12 is our C value. That's just what, isn't that what they had on number 3? Yeah. All right, so try. Okay, so you can see another one. Slope first. Well, actually, the order doesn't matter. I'm just going to do slope first. We got our opposite of A over B. When you're working that out, that's not always necessary to write down. You don't have to write down the opposite of A over B. That's just what you got to remember. Writing it down a few times now, though, going to probably help you remember that a little bit. So opposite of A is negative 7. B is 5. I can't simplify that. And we don't want to make it a mixed number or a decimal. We'll leave it as an improper fraction, okay? So that's my slope. My y-intercept is C over B. C in this case is 35. B is 5. That one we can knock down to a whole number. 35 divided by 5 gives me 7. So when I write my equation, I got y equals negative 7/5 x plus 7. Yeah. Because when we do it, we do the opposite of A over B. So whatever our A value is, we got to change the sign. Okay, so that's why it's negative. You remember when I showed you solving it, I had to move the AX to the right side. And when I move the AX to the right side, I got to do the opposite. So I'm subtracting it. That's where the negative number comes from. But then it's just, like I said, a little extra thing you got to remember when we find the slope then. Any other questions? All right. Also, one other thing to point out, because that seems like a good time to point it out. Sometimes they try to trick you. A goes in front of the X. All right, it's AX. B, Y. C is the constant. The constant starts with C. That part's easy. But the A is the X coefficient. The B is the Y coefficient. Every so often, they give you a standard form equation and they switch the order. I feel like there's no other purpose other than to kind of intentionally try to trick you to make sure you're doing it correctly. Okay? Just kind of be aware of that.